Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong, the show where we take movies and particularly today, the entire body of work of a particular artiste and debate whether Rotten Tomatoes is wrong according to the beloved Tomatometer. Big news, everyone. I've been flying solo for a while now, and I got to do great films like Return of the Jedi and Top Gun, but now she's back. My wonderful co-host, Jacqueline Coley. The Queen has returned. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I really appreciate it. Glad to be back. Much needed break, but glad to be back.
You get some good R&R. What was the highlight of it?
The highlight of it was...
If you can say a video game.
A video game? No, I did do stuff while I was off, but I'm just trying to think of what the highlight of it was. The highlight of it was, honestly, waking up and playing Don't Starve, because I did that a lot. And I became obsessed with that game. Absolutely obsessed.
I like it. So Jacqueline, as you all know, is not only a co-host of this show, she covers movies, she goes to film festivals, she's on the award circuit. Me, I'm a full-time comedian and apparently a part-time video game salesman. According to Twitter, my Twitter got hacked, everyone, so don't try to buy a PS5 from me. I'm not selling them. And I've had so many people text me, hey, do you still have any PS5s left? How dumb are my friends? I need to upgrade because a lot of my friends still think that I'm going to be selling them a PS5 for $5. I'm not.
Wait a minute.
I'm not selling anybody a PS. If I was going to sell a video game system, it would be a Sega Genesis out of my trunk, not a PS5 on Twitter. One of the comedian friends that I have who did not text me yesterday because A, he's super busy co-hosting shows like Boards in the Hood, which he also co-created, when he's not doing his many jobs at night, which range from professional wrestling to professional stand-up comedy. Jay Washington did not text me yesterday. And Jay, this is why you and I are so tight. Sometimes less is more, particularly in a situation when your dear friend Mark gets hacked. How are you?
I'm well. I also was like, yo, is Mark on hard times? Did he selling PS5s? To say, you know what? It's not my cross to bear, not my struggle. I'm going to let this man just like, hey, man, I'm doing it for charity. I was like, nope, I'm going to let this sort itself out. And then it did, because all of a sudden I saw Mark was hacked, and I was like, sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
As if us comedians weren't under literal attack enough this week, Jay. Now we got to deal with our Twitter getting hacked. So
hey, we're going to talk about... We all are blessed to have 99,000 followers like you, sir.
So. Yeah, well, this person that we're talking about today has, I think the last Instagram tally was like 30 or 35 million following on Instagram. I don't
disagree with that, yeah.
And that would be the one, the only, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So we've done this before a few different times, and it's always a hoot. We covered Nicolas Cage recently and all of his great films. So we're going to do that with Dwayne Johnson because, like, there's a lot of great movies, there's a lot of duds, but there's also those movies that sometimes we feel like the Tomatometer got wrong, hence the name of the show, Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. So by the numbers, here's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's average when it comes to films. He's got a 52% Tomatometer average across all of his movies, 23 rotten films, 13 fresh. From 2001 to 2015, he only had 4 fresh films, so he's rebounded nicely recently. His audience score average is 63%, so that is fresh. But when you talk about The Rock, you talk about franchise and box office Viagra. To date, over $12 billion in receipts with a per movie average of $353 million. That is a lot. I could buy Twitter with that. Actually, I could at least buy some stock in Twitter with that money. Jay, we're going to start with you here. The question that we always ask everyone is, you know, because you're a returning champion here, what is your favorite Dwayne Johnson movie, and is Rotten Tomatoes wrong about it?
I have 2. I'm literally a toss-up. One is Pain and Gain.
Okay.
Because you watch him go through an array of emotions and watch that man barbecue a foot. I said, what? While he was higher than that thing. And he was doing it like it was nothing. And then be cool. Because of the way he played Elliot, it was amazing. It was like, it was a whole nother character on a whole nother level, and just the interactions with Vince Vaughn and everything else. The whole Weezy, was just great. But I do think Rotten Tomatoes wrong. Those should have been rated a little bit higher. I believe those should have been rated higher.
Those are both rotten movies. You picked nice round numbers because currently sitting at 50% on the Tomatometer is your first film, Pain and Gain. Your other movie, Be Cool, very early in The Rock's acting career, 30%, according to Tomatoes. And so now let's see what Jacqueline Coley's favorite Dwayne Johnson movie is. Jacqueline, I have here in my notes that your answer is Baywatch. Why?
Excuse me, what?
What?
Excuse me, what?
It is not Baywatch, everyone.
I do love that you wanted to throw me that little curveball because I was like, Lucy, no, she lied to you.
Welcome back,
I was like, I was on vacation and she just took whatever I sent her and was like, this sounds good. No, I'm kidding. No, my favorite movie is actually another early rock one. It actually is fresh too, both in audience and in critics, but my love for it is particular, and that's The Rundown. So The Rundown is a movie that came out in 2003. This is like literally the beginning of the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson transferring over from the WWE. Like he had done like I think 2, maybe 3 movies before then, including like Why Did I Get Married 2? Which, by the way, that is a great cameo that he has at the end of that. And then we never see him again, but he was in it. But I love The Rundown because, for folks that don't know, my dad worked in the movie industry, and he worked on that movie as a caterer/driver.
Oh,
and
right.
that movie was filmed in Hawaii, and I got to go out there for 3 days. So that was actually one of the first movie sets I ever went to. And so that's why that particular movie has like a personal place in my heart.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we're going to talk about another cameo that might be in The Rundown that you and I are a big fan of. And so for me, I look at like my favorite Dwayne Johnson movies, and obviously you could put something like Moana way up there. That's 95% of the Tomatometer. There's not a big argument about that. I think Fast Five, when he really solidified himself as franchise Viagra, but that movie's super fresh, 77%. I am going to go with the movie that I think is criminally underrated, and I think that there is a lot of hubbub, a lot of talk about this movie and how it's going to affect the industry as a whole, and that would be the Netflix film Red Notice at 36%. Rotten Tomatoes is just wrong on this one. I had a ball watching this movie, and I rewatched it again, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Only 36%, but the audience score, we got a man on fire situation because the audience score is 92%. And so I definitely side with the audience more than I do the Tomatometer on this one. And so we're going to get into a deep dive talking about all 3 of 4 of these movies, but also some other fun Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson facts in there as well. Before we do any of that, we're now going to turn it over to the great Tim Ryan, our expert review curation manager here at Rotten Tomatoes. He's going to give us some critic commentary spanning the entirety of The Rock's career. Tim, take it away.
2 Minutes with Tim.
He may be one of Hollywood's most popular and bankable stars, but it's something of a surprise to say that determining the best reviewed Dwayne Johnson movie is actually harder than it looks. If you're going by Tomatometer with a large number of reviews, then the winner is Moana, in which he has the lead voice performance. It's certified fresh at 95% on the Tomatometer. If you're going with a movie in which Dwayne Johnson appears in the flesh, that would be Fighting with My Family, which is certified fresh at 93%, although in this one he's playing himself. Next up is Furious 7, which is certified fresh at 82%, but although he's a major part of the franchise's success, the Furious films are more ensemble pieces than single-star-driven vehicles, no pun intended. Therefore, if you are going by a film in which Dwayne Johnson is the lead and playing a fictional character in a live-action film, then the winner is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, which is certified fresh at 76%. On the other side of the coin, the worst reviewed Dwayne Johnson film is Baywatch, which is at 17%. So what do the critics have to say? In a fresh review for Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, Alex Flood of NME wrote, "We defy you not to laugh every time The Rock lets loose his eyebrow-tastic signature look." Robin Williams would have been proud. However, in a rotten review for Baywatch, Anthony Lane of The New Yorker wrote, "Thank heaven for Dwayne Johnson, whose foot-wide smile will not be switched off and who saves the life of the movie. Whether it deserves to be saved is another matter." So that's a brief overview of the career of Dwayne Johnson. Let's kick it back to Jacqueline and Mark, who in the world of podcasting are the people's champions. Back to you, folks.
Aw, well, I certainly smell that compliment. Thank you, Tim. That means a lot to us. And now we are going to transition right into a movie talk. I have some particular work cut out for Jay because Jay's going to have to sell me on why Pain and Gain is one of his favorite Rock movies, because there is going to be some debate about that. I feel like we're all going to agree on the rundown, and I might have to play some defense myself when I lobby for and not against Red Notice. But before any of that, Jay, the first time The Rock came on your radar, I imagine it was during his wrestling days. When he makes the transition from wrestling onto the big screen. Did you see any of this coming? Did you foresee a career where he would eventually one day be the biggest, not just action star, but the biggest star on the planet and on Hollywood screens?
I didn't think he would ever be this big. I mean, you see the transition Hulk Hogan had made, and it was a big transition, right? But it wasn't massive. You've seen other wrestlers go into acting, and you're like, okay, cool, they have some star power. I don't think anybody could have predicted that Dwayne Johnson would break the Illuminati code, take the New World Order over, and become the biggest box office star in history. I don't think anybody could have predicted. Anybody that says they could have predicted that is pretty much a lie, straight up. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you can prognosticate future success for someone, Jacqueline, but Jay brings up Hulk Hogan. You think about Andre the Giant. When wrestlers were in film back in the day, it was more or less just playing a version of themselves. And I've heard that criticism lobbied before against The Rock, where he always just kind of shows up and he's The Rock. Do you still buy into that, or do you think that he's firmly established himself as somebody who has a range when it comes to acting?
I mean, I don't know if he's established himself as someone that has a range. He has a range within his sandbox. I'll put it to you that way. Can he give you a comedic moment and then go kick somebody in the face? Sure. Can he, really give you, I would say, very powerful, I'm coming to get this person thriller vibe? Sure. Am I going to be seeing him in a my left foot type situation? Not so much. So that's just the way I would put it. Everything is within his sandbox. But yeah, within that sandbox has expanded. I would definitely say early Rock was straight action with dabbles of comedy. And that's the reason why I love The Rundown, is because I think that really showed his comedic chops outside of the WWE. When you get to something like Jumanji, he's perfected it. And when you look at those two films, you see the difference. One is action with comedy sprinkled in a very sort of Bruce Willis sly sort of way. And then by the time you get to something like Jumanji, I mean, the comedy of what he's doing, playing somebody like Alex Wolff mentally and looking like him, that's him stretching to me.
Yeah, Jay, I feel like he has a lot more range than people give him credit for, especially now. And one of those movies, even though I'm not a fan of it, I think Pain and Gain did that because he had to be both dramatic and comedic at the same time. And one of the earlier, I guess it was a mid career Rock film, was called Snitch, and that wasn't just a straight up action movie. There was certainly action in it, but he had some real dramatic scenes. And now, like Jacqueline intimated, there's a lot of laughs that Dwayne Johnson's capable of getting on a level with another shredded hero that we think just about action movies with. But Chris Hemsworth can be very funny too. Mm-hmm. So let's get to Pain and Gain here. Let's get into this movie. Why is this movie so criminally, and I mean that with the pun intended, underrated for you?
Not to mention, let's Dwayne Johnson aside, you got Mark Wahlberg just being Mark Wahlberg. You got Anthony Mackie playing a former steroid user who's gone impotent, and he's upset about it like it's somebody else's fault. But Dwayne Johnson as Paul Doyle plays a convict who tries to turn to Christ while still dealing with his drug addiction at the same time. He's conflicted on so many different levels, and throughout all the stuff that Mark Wahlberg takes him through, into the point where he kills the guy and he ends up cooking his foot and all that, gets shot running from the police to go back to church later. You're like, wait, it's so much he does in just this movie. And so on top of everything else, when he's cooking the foot on the grill, when the super has to come up and says, remember, this is a true story. To remind you, it really happened. That's why this is the movie I can revisit. I'm like, I just need to watch something that just can't be real, but you're like, oh, it's real.
I think the true story element of it, though, Jacqueline, is kind of what threw me off, because I felt like Michael Bay he was looking for a tone, and he never really got missile lock on what he was going for, because there are these crazy comedic segments, but then there's also an underlying touch of sadness, because we know that this is a true story. We know that real people were murdered, and so just the way it has such a glee telling the story, I don't know. It felt like it was a little uneven for me. How do you see it?
Oh, definitely. I think that was Michael Bay trying to, because what was Pain and Gain? What year was that?
Pain and Gain was released in movie theaters.
Yes.
The great year 2013.
I think that was him trying to go into his Kiss Kiss Bang Bang era. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I really do. I remember Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was early 2000s, like somewhere between like 2003, 2004, obviously before Iron Man, so it had to be early. And I feel this was part of that. I think it was him saying, like, it seems like these guys that confuse comedy into action are having a better go of it.
Yeah, it's this tragedy. So I guess, Jay, the question is not, because I know you have a very big heart, but like it's this very tough thing. It's a very narrow window you're trying to squeeze a story into when you're talking about a real tragedy, and you're not making like a true crime documentary about it. You're actually making what a lot of folks consider to be sort of a weird buddy cop action comedy through a funhouse mirror.
Right. And then it's also Michael Bay, so there has to be explosions somewhere. Yeah. And that shot that shows the just circling around shot, it has to be there. But in the midst of all that, like I said, you get a story of somebody trying to make it, another guy trying to get by on his life, and another guy trying to change his life. And so when you see all those different elements play together, that's for me what resonates the most.
When you see them is sort of have to team up, or then they're at odds. And so I guess
right. It constantly bounces back and forth. They're together, then they're apart. They can agree, then they disagree. They fight, they argue.
The arguments, for me anyway, are the highlight of the movie. Like just watching him and Wahlberg and sometimes Mackie in there too, just sort of like trade barbs and just watch them fall in and out of friendship. I think that's the highlight of the movie for me. And I just have to remove myself from knowing, I guess, what ultimately went down between these characters.
Dude, when after Mark Wahlberg roid rages out and kills the guy with the weight, and then literally looks over and says, I got to get a pump in. And you got Dwayne Johnson like, yeah, do that. And then Mark Wahlberg is like, so what we going to do? He's like, ain't no we to this. You killed him. Like, ain't no we. This is you. And then you got Mark Wahlberg like, wait, what? Huh? Like, yeah, this is you, sir. Like, you did that. I'm not going back to jail for you on this. Like, that's those beautiful things you get out of that movie.
I got to get a pump.
Yeah, take a moment. That's it. Good. Listen, Danny, I know what it's like to think you killed somebody. And it hurts. I mean, you got Jesus and the devil swirling. That's it, get it. Jesus, devil swirling all up in your head. I was lucky because my guy lived. So you must really feel like
Just because I feel like I have to ask you this, just because you are around wrestling and you're constantly working out in gyms, getting your pump on, have you ever seen somebody that you know, like a friend, and then they're a different person because of roid rage?
I grew, yes. I'll just say yes. I was going to start naming names, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I mean, I've seen so many people in the pro wrestling industry that I've watched go from people your size, Mark, which is a nice size, to all of a sudden people Dwayne Johnson size in 6 weeks. I was like, bro, your genetics ain't that good. Like, you know what I'm saying? The Lord have not blessed your DNA like that. Why do you think this is a thing? And you see it, and you see the way the effects it has on them. You see the roid rage. All right, yeah, that happened. You see the roid rage, you see the anger, you see the aggression and all those things. So I've been around it.
Jacqueline, I feel like 50%, I'm going to say that's fair for Pain and Gain. Do you have a strong feeling on this Tomatometer score?
Not really. Again, it's like with a Michael Bay movie, outside of like a handful of them, I can't really think of any of them that I'm like, oh, I would feel very upset if I never, ever got to see this again. And this was definitely not that it for me. This movie was one of those movies where the only thing I remember about it, and no offense, Jay, I love you, but a lot of dudes with tribal tattoos in the mid 2010s making their entire personality about that movie. And that's literally the only taste I have in my mouth about it 10 years later. And I'm not saying anything against you, Jay.
Okay, because I didn't make that movie my life. I'm supposed to say, nope. I'll put
But do you have a tribal tattoo?
Can we go to the next part of this question? See what had happened was I was.
I mean, I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm like, I stand by my assertion. That's all I will say.
You know what? I don't like the way this conversation is going right now.
It's okay. I didn't mean to do this. It's only because we're friends. I would never do this to a first time guest. I know some people are like, is she really going this hard for him? It's only because I know Jay.
Yeah.
I also know he has that tattoo. And number 3, like legitimately, Mark knows what I'm talking about. This was a bro movie. Pain and Gain.
It was a very bro movie. I'll admit that. It's a very bro dude. It's a very dude, bro.
And the movie I like is a very bro movie. The Rop's filmography, let's be real, is very bro-y. So, I'm not in any way, like my movie was that version if, it was like the hipster bro version. Because The Rundown wasn't a huge movie, but if you saw it, you would definitely make it your personality.
Yeah, the difference between The Rundown and Pain and Gain for me is that like people looked at Pain and Gain and based their lives on trying to be those characters in the same way that they did Wall Street when it came out in the 80s, where it's like, oh, they didn't really realize that Gordon Gekko's the bad guy in the movie. They're like, I just want to look like that. And I think some of the same with the tribal tattoos or just constantly being in a gym and doing roids and bad things outside of the gym as well. I think the Pain and Gain did inspire some of that, but we can't always pin all of that on a movie. With The Rundown, it just really made me want to have fun with The Rock and Sean William Scott. And so, Jacqueline, the floor is now yours to defend your movie. Even though it is fresh, you think it should be higher.
Oh, absolutely. I think it should be higher. And you really kind of talked about it. And it is the chemistry between Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Sean William Scott. And the bro-ness of Sean William Scott is why this thing worked. That movie was perfect for its time frame. You guys, you have to remember, this was the American Pie era. This was the Euro Trip era. And for a movie like that, it was still a film where I felt that it tried a little bit. Like it showed Sean William Scott for the privileged little crap that he is, It also, I think, gave Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson a chance for him to really show himself for what he wanted to be a legitimate, not just like a throw you in the movie action star, but a legitimate. I look at somebody like Florian Montaño from Creed and then also from Shang-Chi. Right now, that could have been all Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was. And he made a conscious effort to turn himself into a movie star. But where he was in The Rundown was that point. And this was the movie that really, in my opinion, any Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie that you're looking at later and you're saying, this guy's a star, that was the movie that showed you exactly what he could do and all of the talents that he was cultivating, to where, again, when you get to a movie like Jumanji, which was a huge hit, it's one of its highest rated movies, you see all of like the seeds of it there and the passing of the torch of it there. And it's really funny and it's shot in Hawaii and it looks good. And Peter Berg is kind of a madman. And I would say that he also is somebody who the fun that he has on his sets, I think translates on screen.
Yeah, Peter Berg is another guy, Jay, who's like Michael Bay in that you definitely know what tone they're going for. And he sets out to make a very specific kind of movie. With The Rundown, I love the cameo at the beginning from Arnold Schwarzenegger because there's a scuffle going at a nightclub. And as Schwarzenegger is walking out, Dwayne is walking in and they just kind of bump shoulders and Schwarzenegger looks at him and he says, "Good luck in there." And that is sort of Schwarzenegger passing the torch as he goes into his gubernatorial career saying, hey, in there isn't just some nightclub where a brawl broke out. In there is Hollywood. In there is the competition for the next great action star. So as Arnold is walking off into the sunset from his glory days that may never be topped by another action actor, The Rock is going in there. And so, Jay, I kind of look at The Rundown as The Rock's last season in the minor leagues where he's proving himself and he's just putting up insane AAA numbers. And you're like, this guy's ready for the show.
Again, you have that, like you just said, you have that torch passing. You have that handoff from the action star in Arnold Schwarzenegger, the muscle guy in Schwarzenegger. Yes, you had Stallone try to mimic that in a sense, but it never reached that same level of what Schwarzenegger was. And so this passing, you get, like Jacqueline said, you get this, it's not a bro-y movie, it's a level, it's different type of theme movie. Mm-hmm. It's not this bro-y movie everything else becomes, but it's something different. And then it's like, okay, this dude is real. This dude is really in movies now. This is no longer, we were still calling him The Rock for a little bit, but it's like, this is Dwayne Johnson now. Yeah. Now we're seeing Dwayne Johnson. That's what we got out of that.
I will say that, too, I want to add to this one on that one. The Mark Hoffmeyer gave us the great story of how that cameo came to be. Yeah. And it was while Arnold was governor. He was actually having a lunch at the Universal lot, which is just minutes away from the neighborhood where we all live. And like, he was just on set one day, and the president of Universal at the time was having lunch with him. He's like, hey, we're filming this movie with The Rock. You want to come take a look at it? It was I would say the interiors, obviously, in like nightclub scene. They were filming on the lot. They filmed the rest of the movie in Hawaii. But yeah, they did the movie, and Arnold was like, yeah, if you can do it today, get me in hair and makeup and let me do it. They shot it that afternoon. And I just think that's so cool that you could move that quickly. And the cameo was so perfect. And the timing of it was so perfect, because you could only get Arnold Schwarzenegger to do that cameo like that while he was governor as a favor.
And it was just one of those days where the Hollywood gods smiled upon the movie The Rundown. I put that cameo on a par with, like, this is going to be a deep cut, David Letterman and Cabin Boy. Anybody remember it?
Oh my God, Cabin Boy.
David Letterman, Cabin Boy. And
that's Chris Elliott, right?
Yep.
Wow, I haven't thought that. You know what was weird? That was in the SNL comedy movie heyday, which we don't get anymore at all. But it was like Cabin Boy. It was like they were after their SNL movie, so it was like the Pauly Shore era, Jury Duty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but after the SNL movie, it seemed like all of them did these like one-off comedies that weren't necessarily SNL characters, but they had solidified themselves as action stars.
So I Married an Axe Murderer. Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly like that. Even to a certain extent, Jim Carrey in Once Bitten, that was the In Living Color version of that for him.
Yes,
you know what I
was.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting now to think about those movies, because we don't have those. I mean, I guess King of Staten Island was the closest we've gotten to that recently, right?
Pop Star,
but that wasn't
wasn't
an SNL character.
directly. Yeah, you're right.
But what's really interesting, YouTube has killed that. Because now they have all these little SNL skits all the time. The idea of like extending it for a movie, now they just want more of less.
Well, I'll tell you what you can't do on YouTube. You can't put out a movie like Red Notice, because that could only be a monster Netflix production with a
I gotta give this
huge
man a round of
budget.
applause for the segue. I got to give him a
Starring
round of applause.
Gal Gadot,
Good segue. Good segue.
Ryan Reynolds, and of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, directed by Ross and Marshall Thurber, who has been in the gym. Him and his wife took like this fitness challenge, and they're both just like, they look like fitness models now when they're not working on big time movies. I think that Red Notice, when it was announced and it came out, and it came direct to Netflix, like that was always the idea. I think it gave a lot of people pause as to where the industry is going, because they're like, wait, we can put the biggest blockbusters with the biggest movie stars direct to Netflix. What's going to happen to movie theaters? And I feel like that was the movie that just caused a big ripple. It was like the time and space continuum of what Hollywood has been forever sort of felt a seismic shift. The tectonic plates moved a little bit for Hollywood, but just the movie itself, I really enjoyed the pace of it, the comedy of it. I think Ryan Reynolds might steal the whole movie, but they all shine individually as they range from thieves to FBI profilers who are catching thieves, and they're all looking for these mysterious eggs that have ancient Egyptian lore attached to them. And there's 3 eggs, and we're running around looking for them. And I have no idea why the movie's as low as 36%, because to me, it feels every bit as fun as a National Treasure movie. It's not to the level of Indiana Jones, but what is? And it also felt like the action and the over-the-topness of it felt like anything that you would see in Fast 5 or Fast 6 or Fast 7. And the critics seem to appreciate those for whatever reason, but not Red Notice. Am I way off base here, Jay? Is Red Notice a terrible movie that I have blinders on for some reason?
I don't think it's a terrible movie. I enjoyed it. I will openly admit I enjoyed Red Notice. I also will say this. Look, let me just be honest. Gal Gadot, however you pronounce it, pardon my love, plays the same person in every single movie. She's the same person. And you talk about certain people in she was the exact, she basically was Princess Diana without her Wonder Woman gear on at a point. You know what I'm saying? And Ryan Reynolds is going to be Ryan Reynolds.
You could say that for Ryan Reynolds too, I was going to say.
I was just about to say, yeah.
You just know, but you know that's what you're going to get with Ryan. It's never an expectation of anything else with Ryan Reynolds. I think that's the thing. With Gal Gadot, you want to see a different range of a character. You just said it with a Dwayne Johnson. With a Ryan Reynolds, we come to understand there's going to be Ryan just being Ryan, just with a character name. Like, that's what this is. But then Red Notice, it moved a lot. There were a lot of pieces. I was like, okay, so what's really going on? And then when you find out the whole double and triple cross, you're like, wait, what? So I liked it. I definitely liked it. Don't get me wrong. So I don't want nobody thinking, he didn't like the movie. I did.
A lot of twists and turns. And Jacqueline, as you know, because we've seen a lot of movies together, I am an absolute idiot when it comes to seeing a plot twist coming. I never see anything. I never find out who the killer is until 5 minutes after it's been revealed. But I really liked all of the twists and turns this movie takes you through. And I thought the action was fun. I have my little qualms about how we're basically all three of us are killing police officers around the world, and we don't really feel bad about it, even though we're working with them. But if you have a problem with that in movies, then you're gonna have a problem with a lot of movies. So, how does Jacqueline Coley feel about one of my favorite Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies, Red Notice?
Okay, so this is what I would tell you. I haven't seen it.
Didn't even want to watch it.
She started this beautiful preamble. Well, look. I'll tell you.
And by the way, though, I want to be very clear. It came out during award season. You know that I wasn't going to see that, Mark. I knew that you were selecting that because you told me on the phone. But I literally said to you, I was like, I'm not doing that. And I didn't know that. At least,
even in the heat of award season, you at least can acknowledge that when the movie dropped, people were like, "Is this the way that we're going to be watching movies here?
Yes,
Are theaters
very
done?"
true.
Like it was a weird jump to make for me anyway.
Well, this is what's weird for me about Red Notice, because that's what I was just about to say is, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I didn't see it. But what is interesting about Red Notice is the amount of coverage and the life cycle of the coverage around what that movie meant, not just to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but to Netflix. Mm-hmm. That is correct. And what's so interesting now, if we look at the grand scheme of things, and I'm not whatever, you could honestly say Red Notice was Netflix's biggest and best effort. They got literally 3 of the biggest movie stars on the planet. Deadpool, Black Adam, and Wonder Woman. Come on. That is huge. And Green Lantern and, the Spider King and whatever else Gal Gadot has played. And they still, I honestly think in a year from now, people won't remember they did a movie together. The disposability of how big that movie is the thing that scares me, considering how many stars are in it.
Yeah, it did feel very disposable. Jay, it almost felt like a more, I don't know, run-down version, not to borrow Jacqueline's movie, of an Ocean's 11 type film where let's just get a bunch of famous people and let's have a heist and let's have a lot of laughs on set and see if that translates over. And I think it did translate over, but like you said, it's pretty much Gal and Ryan and Dwayne being themselves. But Ryan Reynolds is playing Deadpool in this. He's playing Wade Wilson, but I really had fun with it.
But like Jacqueline just said, it was that. Is this what movies is? Okay. Because we were in the heat still of COVID. People were needing things to do. Theaters weren't really a big thing yet again. People were still like, they're open, but I don't know if I want to go, but this is on Netflix, so let's do it. You already had other movies like Extraction, Six Underground, The Old Guard, movies that Netflix is putting money in, right, already. Yeah. But it didn't hit the reach it hit until it did Red Notice. And they were like, wait, Netflix is making Marvel Studios level money movies. And the problem is people are like, well, how will they recoup this? What is going to be the metrics to gauge this off of? Because, of course, when movies in theaters, well, what's the domestic? What's the worldwide? What's the international gross? All these things. You just like, how many streams did they get? That's literally it.
And we don't know. Netflix's numbers. You have to be in the skulls to get the Netflix numbers. And
no, I am not going to pass by that Joshua Jackson late '90s poll. No, sir. Did you just say the skulls?
I'm feeling it.
Paul
I'm feeling
Walker,
it today.
you are in
I'm
your
feeling
juices.
segues. I'm feeling Dawson's Creek star movies. When your Twitter gets hacked, you're forced to think in new ways.
A Paul Walker movie too,
there
man.
You
you were keeping it like Fast and the Furious, like all in there. Synergy, baby.
That's
quadrants.
what I just want consistency from everything, and that includes our good friend the Tomatometer. Is that if you're just going to gush and make every Fast and Furious movie fresh, my question is, what are those movies doing that Red Notice didn't do? Because all of the Fast and Furious, maybe with the exception of 5, they all feel like the same long movie to me. And Red Notice, at least by the end of it, it's trying to set itself up to be a franchise like that.
I don't know what Jay would say, but I would just say, like, Red Notice was a movie made by committee in the middle of a pandemic that got shut down twice. So I don't know if that's the same as like
Look at the end of it. Look at the end of the movie, you could tell it was shot. They was like, hey, everybody socially distanced for real when you walk past each other.
You know what I mean? Like, I think they just got happy to get to the finish line of that one. Because any movie that big, those schedules are 2 years out. You know what I mean? Like, there's too many things going on. And so any delay for any reasons is really hard to maintain that you keep everyone. There's so many instances of movies where, you know, Sterling K. Brown drops out of The Harder They Fall because they had to move the date. You know what I mean? So I actually think that, I don't know, because you look at a film that would be under the similar setting as something like Red Notice, and you're like, the reason why they do better is because they're in theaters and they can eventize them. They can become part of the landscape that can build you up to $1 billion franchise. And Netflix movies just don't have that formula.
I feel like, I mean, Red Notice was a leap forward as far as Netflix doing that stuff. But according to their numbers or their stock or whatever, Netflix has been in the red for, ever since they stopped mailing out DVDs. And so somehow they keep finding money to make more of these projects and the cycle continues. But when we look at these 3 movies, let's expand it to something like Jay's other selection, Be Cool, because that was very early on in Dwayne Johnson's career, and it acted as a very loose sequel to Get Shorty, or in the same vibe of it. So, Jay, why is Be Cool so underappreciated by everyone?
I remember I got introduced to this movie because of him being on Punk'd, because of the Ashton Kutcher stunt where he thought he burnt up the traditional garb for him because he was using it for the scene. I remember that. And so I was like, let me see this movie. And so watching it, automatically you get John Travolta, Uma Thurman, Harvey Keitel, you got all the normal people in certain big movies, but then you got Dwayne Johnson as a giant bodyguard that you find out is gay. And it's like, again, that's a different step for him to play. And to lean, not to go over the top, flamboyant gay, it's just like, this is who I am, and I want to be in movies and things like that. I'm trying to find my way in. And to have his best friend in Vince Vaughn, who backstabs him, only to end up getting redeemed and getting a chance to be on a billboard with Nicole Kidman and dancing at the VMAs with Christina Milian. Like, you can't, look, Be Cool is a giant music video that you're waiting to have the video happen. Like, it's a long preamble to a music video. And then you're like, oh, there's more to the video? Okay, cool. That's what Be Cool is. That's why I liked it. I don't care what nobody's saying, man.
Jacqueline, that was a theater experience for me because a bunch of my friends, like Jay, are huge wrestling honks, and so they wanted to go see The Rock, and I knew that Steven Tyler, the lead singer of Aerosmith, was in the movie, and I think that we all enjoyed the first Get Shorty, and so we're like, yeah, okay, we'll all go see this movie. You have any strong feelings on Be Cool one way or the other?
Yeah, I really loved Get Shorty. I really love Ellard Fillmore. And they had announced stuff about that movie early that made me be like, this is not the one for me. Just because, you know what I mean? Like, it was not. It's not the movie for me because, look, Rum Punch is one of my all-time favorite movies. That's the one that became Jackie Brown. And I really love Get Shorty, and I've read a lot of his books, and I knew that when I was like, I love Lucky Palma. I loved all of his books. It'd be like if I heard somebody was adopting a Jackie Collins book, and I heard something about it that I didn't like, I'd be like, I'm not going to watch this. So I know I saw Be Cool, but I wasn't about it. Was that Uma too in that one or no?
Yes, it is. That's Uma.
Yeah, that's Uma in that one.
That's
yeah,
Uma
I was not about it. In fact, I think she was the part I enjoyed the most about that movie.
The best part about either one of those movies, Get Shorty or Be Cool, though, is Danny DeVito being a giant movie star who's playing Napoleon, and it's going to be like the biggest movie. That's pretty fantastic. When you see the billboard for Napoleon, it's one of my favorite parts, one of my favorite aspects of Get Shorty. So as we look at the entire filmography here, does anything else stand out as far as like really being, I guess, egregiously wrong? Because the rest of his Tomatometer scores look pretty accurate. Like the other guys where he has an extended cameo, I'd call it in, is 78%. That movie's hilarious, and he's a big reason why in the first act. Fast Five, 77%. The Jumanjis are both fresh. And then you get to the middling movies like Snitch. Like I said, wasn't great, but it was a new step for him. It's almost fresh at 57%. Get Smart had a lot of laughs, but not a great film, 51%. Like I'm pretty cool with all of these. Do y'all have any other discrepancies that you're like, wait, why is nobody picketing? Why is nobody protesting this?
I always want to know what my theory, my guideline, my benchmark for Dwayne Johnson's movies is. What is The Rock gonna fight next? And what I mean by that, he's fought gangs in Gridiron Gang. He fought an earthquake in San Andreas. He fought a giant alligator and a flying wolf in Rampage. He fought with families in Fight With My Family. You know what I'm saying? He fought with Moana in Moana. Like, what is he going to fight with next? He fights with Kevin Hart in every movie. So it's like, what is The Rock going to fight with next? That's for me. The man fought an earthquake. He fought also skyscraper. The man fought a burning building with one leg.
Yes, he
one
did.
leg. He did a leap. He did a leap that they had to do on Mythbusters to show physically it could never happen. The jump he does off the crane. They said there's no way he could have made that with 2 legs. Let him. He holds a bridge up, y'all. He holds a bridge up so Nev Campbell can walk across it. Okay, what else is this man gonna do?
You can do it. You can do it. Listen, I can't hold it anymore.
I love that Jay actually had to sit down and watch Mythbusters because like there was still a kernel of hope that he could make that jump at some point, and Jay's like, I'm gonna let Mythbusters have the final word on this because I think it could happen.
They did the John Madden telestrator. Was like, if you see this curve right here and this 45-degree angle, he'd have never made it.
Yeah.
You forgot the biggest feat of The Rock's career, though, Jay, is he also defeated Marines on Mars when he went rogue in the classic Doom.
Don't do that. We act like Doom never happened because that's what everybody was like. Video game movies are dead. Once he did Doom.
He played Sarge in that beloved classic.
Great memes, though. Great memes from that movie.
Great memes from Doom.
Yes, indeed.
So my final question, my last thought here, as we close up the movie talk portion of the episode, what do you want to see Dwayne Johnson do next? What's the next movie? Start with you, Jacqueline. Is it a sequel to something we've already gotten? Is it just a different genre for him? Where do you want to see The Rock go? If you're going to the movie theater and you're walking in to see a new Dwayne Johnson movie, what do you want it to look like?
I mean, I want to see him work with more female writers and script writers, honestly. Like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has a great opportunity. He's shown his chemistry with Emily Blunt, and it looks like they're doing another movie with her soon, I think. Maybe, we'll see. But I think that's where he needs to expand. Because if he's really going to keep himself carried, this is what I see happening to him. He's got to make a turn now, otherwise it's going to be Mark Wahlberg, which is that Mark Wahlberg still wants to do action movies, but Mark Wahlberg can't play Nathan Drake anymore. He has to play Nathan Drake's older brother. And I'm not really sure that really makes Mark Wahlberg, you know what I mean? Like, not even his older brother. He has to play like his like drunken father figure. I don't know if that makes Mark Wahlberg happy. I think Mark Wahlberg likes being the scary guy in the room kind of dude. Like, he likes to play the Bruce Willis role. And so I don't know. I just don't know how many roles there are like that left in modern movie making. And so you've got to make the turn. And so he's got to make a change. Is it rom-coms? Is it looking to do more horror? I don't know. Like, Liam Neeson made a turn and turned himself into an action hero, but he kept doing it. And now we see where he's at.
Yeah, Jay, where does The Rock go from here? It's an interesting point Jacqueline brings up is working with a different perspective behind the camera, because it can lead to more fruit in a different genre on screen.
Yeah, not an action type. You know, I want him to work with more female directors for sure, to be able to tell, look, we need to see something different. And I don't give a how big you are. Put him, let's see a real dramatic role where he has to get really emotional. And the only fights he has to have is with himself, or something mentally and emotionally. We are always going to expect to see him get physical because it's just like, well, people want to see Dwayne Johnson get physical. Yeah. People want to see something different. The only fight he should have is an emotional fight, a mental fight, and then put it with a female director who can pull that out of him. Because again, all of the guys he's had directing him are like, all right, so here's the scene where you're going to punch this dude through the wall. All right. And it's every director has that at one point. You're going to punch this dude and he's going to fly back 57 feet. We know logically it's not supposed to happen, but he's going to be on wires, so don't worry. So I want to see him do that.
All right, this sounds like you're two execs at his agency trying to expand his. I want to see him do action. Okay, the guy is a hulk of a human. That my short answer to the question I asked, I want to see Red Notice 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. That's what I want to see The Rock too.
That's
I
a
don't
bit
want to see
self-serving.
the guy's not John Cusack. I don't want to be sitting on a park bench with Diane Lane talking about dogs.
Why
I want
don't
to see him
you?
kissing in the rain because there's
Matthew
other people that-
McConaughey used rom-coms to get him from action, he used rom-coms to get him from dramatic pretty boy to rom-coms to eventually get him into dramatic. This is the deal.
Oscar glory. Okay.
And then now
All right.
Oscar glory. If you're going to make the shift, you need baby steps. And in all honesty, I think he thinks he's going to make the baby steps with the MCU, which he could. Robert Downey Jr. could definitely walk into a really great slate of dramatic
where is he
roles.
going in with the MCU? Hold on, turn around.
Oh no, yeah, the DC movie with Black Adam.
Like
no,
I think
you
it was
said MCU. I was
I
like,
said
what
MCU.
Marvel
Sorry, I
movie
said
is he
DCEU. Sorry, DCEU. Sorry, DC fans. You can continue to come for me in my DMs. No, but with Black Adam, just knowing the story of how that character is in the comics, and definitely he deals with that's not a very fluffy character. If you know a lot of the history around that one, I think that's his baby step. We'll see where he goes after that. But I also know he's doing a romantic comedy with Emily Blunt. So I think this idea that I have in my head, it seems that the president and founder of $5 production companies also has that thought. Like he knows, like you only have so many years as a glorified action star. And then you can either just keep being an action star and staying in that genre and probably not moving past that, or you could diversify.
I agree. I mean, Tom Cruise, he's still in action movies, but he also diversified his career somewhat. Harrison Ford, same thing,
And he's the only one that can really do that because Tom Cruise can still make Maverick. But like, think about it. When Tom Cruise makes a movie now, it's like imagine if it was Fast and the Furious, if Vin Diesel put as much effort into it as Ryan Reynolds did with Deadpool. Like that's really what Tom does with his films now. Like he's involved from the minute they start the script through the thing. He's the producer on all of them. That's a totally different gig than just being like, I'm going to go do another action film.
Yeah, I mean, The Rock could also retire right now with tequila sales alone. So
Exactly.
I think he's doing just.
Man, look, Terramana's not the best tequila though. It's okay.
But it's doesn't matter.
It's making
He's
money.
Minted.
Also, speaking of Red Notice, both him and Ryan Reynolds made sure to have the perfect product placement for both Terramana and Aviation Gin in that movie.
They were in
that's
the
right.
contracts, I guarantee you, before either one of them signed on. My gin is going to be in my which, by the way, I will say this, of the two, I will do a gin. So I will have my own liquor label. I'll put it out on this podcast so y'all can yell at me for years. But I am going to have my own liquor label, and it is going to be gin, and it's going to be elderflower based because that's all I like to drink.
I saw Jacqueline have an elderflower cocktail the other night, and it looked delicious. I'm going to hold out for Gal Gadot sponsoring Coors Light. All right, that is all for movie talk. So now we're going to transition right into Mailbag. Brian, hit that music. Wonder Woman and Coors Light. It's a match made in heaven or maybe Themyscira. Our email today is from our esteemed Ketchup crew member, Cole. You can be like Cole and email us anytime with movie suggestions, what you want to hear on an upcoming episode of Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. Just email us at rtiswrong@rottentomatoes.com. Cole says, "Hi, gang. Love the podcast. I'm writing to recommend the 2000s sci-fi horror film Pitch Black. I'm biased since I'm a sci-fi fanatic, but I think this stylized creature feature is beautifully shot and great fun, and I think it's worthy of a better score than its current 59% rotten. I'd love to know what you all think. Thanks, Cole." Yeah, I have not seen Pitch Black, but I hear good things. I enjoyed Riddick or the Chronicles of Riddick, whatever the most recent one was, and I feel like 59%, there's so many good movies. Spaceballs is the one I always point to that are stuck at that 59% just south of Freshville. So
Did
we'll
we
take a
do
look
Pitch
at,
Black?
but we have not done Pitch Black yet. No, we have
not done Pitch Black yet? Then I must have seen it for something recently.
Thank God we have fans like Cole who are writing us and telling us what movies we need to cover. And really, for me, watch for the first time. Jay, it's always an honor when we get to spend some time with you. I imagine you're heading to the gym later. How many pieces of The Rock's gym attire collection do you own?
None, because I don't have
They're a little
money.
pricey.
Yeah, pricey, because I don't own any. So if you happen to be listening to this and someone says, "Hey, at The Rock, Mr. J. Washington was like, yo, he wants to wear some Project Rock gear, but he can't afford it because he's just a single black father living in a studio apartment trying to make it. You can send them all my way, and the Rotten Tomatoes folks will make sure that I get it. In a 3X size, preferably at the top because my shoulders and chest are kind of broad, and some shorts, and I would like to smell what The Rock is cooking while I'm lifting. Thank you very much.
It looks great, but you have to be at a certain level of musculature to really pull it off. And I feel like I'm just now knocking on the door of that, Jay. So when you see me next time in person, I just want you to give me the once over and let me know if I'm ready to wear one of those $80 tank tops.
Now you see exactly why we say this, Jacqueline. $80 tank top.
They look good, though. They really do look
good.
They definitely do. I am very excited.
guarantee you they're not going to look as good as the $80 would elsewhere. But that's me.
You know what I'm going to do? It's a lot cheaper than $80, and it's something that I'm going to be attending, and I think a lot of folks out there listening should, is right here in Southern California, Jay and Winston Marshall, Blurs in the Hood, are having a live show at the Bourbon Room in Hollywood honoring Juneteenth. Jay, tell us about that and all the other cool stuff you got going on.
Yes, indeed. Saturday, June 18th at the Bourbon Room in Los Angeles. We're doing the first ever live taping of Blurs in the Hood, like Mark said, me and Winston A. Marshall. And we're doing a comedy show with myself, Winston A. Marshall, host. Mark Ellis is going to be gracing us with his hilarious chuckles, and we got a couple other special guests coming aboard. You can get the tickets at shptickets.com, shptickets.com, and you can catch Blurs in the Hood every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Blurs in the Hood, BLERDS, the letter NTHEHOOD, and for me, the Mad Titan podcast, everywhere you get your podcast from. I talk about all the things in the Marvel and DC live action cinematic universes. It is Barbershop Talk for Nerds. Come on in this convo. And y'all can find out where I'm at, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all this stuff, because I've been using TikTok because I have to use TikTok now.
Yeah, well, it must be nice to be on Twitter, Jay. It must be nice. It sounds like a good time. Don't buy PlayStations for me, guys. I'm not selling them.
I mean, look, let's get out of here so Mark can hopefully see if he got his Twitter back, because I really feel him going through it a bit.
Hey, I played Wii Golf and took naps yesterday. I'm doing just fine. We need more Hook videos from y'all. Everybody listening out there, if you feel strongly about the Steven Spielberg movie from the early 90s, some consider it a classic. I certainly don't. It's one of his few rotten movies on his resume. Send in a quick vid. Email us at rtiswrong@rottentomatoes.com with your take on Hook. Until then, that is Jay Washington. That is Jacqueline Coley. I am Mark Ellis. For producing Lucy, our expert engineer, Brian Perez, Tim Ryan, and the whole gang here at Rotten Tomatoes. Thanks for listening. Until next time, do not buy a video game system from this guy. We'll see you next time on Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong.